Coulda knocked me over with a
Growing up in
feather.
church, my dad's a minister, is a pastor in North Carolina. I watched a lot of people play roles all of my life in church and in life, and I'm always such a sponge and taking notes and watching humans be humans. And so it's always fascinated me, and I love taking it in and seeing how that resonates in my body and how I can creatively express that and use it as fuel. The first thing that moved me, I remember as a child, my father gave me a VHS of Porgy and Bess that Dorothy Dandridge was in and Sidney Poitier, and watching these beautiful black people tell this story and emote and sing and dance, I was enthralled and I watched it incessantly. Like I would just put it on and sit at the TV and just soak it all in. And music has always moved me. My dad used to announce the football game in our local university, and I was the little kid dancing to the marching band and cheering with the cheerleaders and doing all the things. And to this day, people from home are like, "Are you still dancing? You still?" Like, they keep up with me and see. They're like, "Oh, I remember you, that little 5-year-old kid out there just running up and down the football field." Um, and so, yeah, music has always just played such a pivotal role in my life. And it came so naturally to make the decision to go into entertainment. It felt right and it felt purpose driven. I live life with intention and purpose, but most importantly with love. And so this is a part of who God created me to be, to use these gifts I was given to be effective in the world.
And was that easy for your parents? Like, I sense come from a very traditional,
No.
very home growing grassroots.
No, it's so wild. It's funny because they would tell you, my parents would tell you that they don't sing, they're not musicians. But my father sang in college in their choir, and their beautiful bass voice, like, oh, just stunning. My mother's a great singer, but she's like, it's stressful to try to sing. I can't do it. Makes my head hurt. But my brother is a musician. He plays the piano and sings. That's always connected us. Even if we were arguing and didn't talk, we could he could sit at the piano and I would sing, and it just kept us together. And so it's wonderful to be able to have such inspiration around me and see it in others, but then also use that as fuel to try to inspire others to use the gifts that are in them. And my mom really has always been the biggest supporter, whether it's made sense to her or not. I had a conference with my father about the decision to move to New York. Multiple nights of going into his bedroom to sit and talk with him to make him understand this choice of stepping into my purpose. And I tried to put it in so many words that he would understand. I'm still a person of faith, and that has evolved for me. But to be able to speak to his heart and to say to him, this is something I've prayed about, this is something I've dealt with in my spirit, that I can't even fully explain it, but I have to do this. And he wanted me to do something safe, do some in science or math, or, as all parents, they want their child to be supported. And so this just seemed uncertain and unsure. And even in that, I was like, I got to do it. And so, now these days, he's like, there's mud on my face, but it smells good. And my brother, talk about sibling relationships. He saw the opening night of Some Like It Hot. And he is still in awe of the show, of me as his sibling. And every time we talk now, he's just like, how's my Tony Award-winning brother? How's my Tony? He just is so excited.
I bet, right?
And I have my big song in Act 2, You Could Have Knocked Me Over with a Feather. And opening night was standing ovation, all these people. And my brother said that was his favorite moment of the night. One, because all of these celebrities were on their feet and crying and applauding and so filled. And he was like, and also I couldn't stand up. He said to me, his legs were too weak from taking it all in and experiencing.
Such a great feeling. But tell us a little bit about that for yourself. What was the audition like when you knew that this was going to be something that was presented or possible?
At the time, it was for a 29-hour reading. So we were just going into a studio for 29 hours during this 1 week of reading the script out loud, not even doing the staging, but just reading it out loud. So the audition for that was exciting, and I didn't know the material. I didn't know the movie. I hadn't seen it. So I went and saw it, and I was like, it's wonderful. It's funny. There are some things that could be changed and need to be changed. But I was excited, and it felt, again, very intentional and purpose-driven of like, oh, I see what I can do with Jerry and Daphne and take this journey and be a mirror for audiences. And so I was really excited about that. And so I booked that audition, and that started the journey, and that was 2019. And then from there, we did a couple workshops, and it's just grown and evolved, and we've, as a team, really all grown together. We had a beautiful moment pre-pandemic. I say it is beautiful on so many levels. Of during that reading, one of the presentations, I was wearing a cute little black romper, just sleeveless, and I had these little happy face crystal shoes. And our director came up to me and said, "You look great. I love this outfit. It's adorable. But for the sake of the reading, can you find some pants?" He's like, "I just would like a clean slate so that the producers don't see the journey and just kind of give you a clean." And I knew what he meant and what he was getting at. And so I was going to go to TJ Maxx. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to buy pants for this moment. I'll try to go home. But traffic would have gotten me back late. So I said, I'm going to stand firm. And this is what I wore today. If these clothes get in the way of you seeing as producers, as the creative team, whatever you need to see that keeps me from moving forward, then this role isn't for me. And I settled within my spirit that like I was okay with that. If I didn't move forward, then that was fine. But luckily, they kept me on, and I got to inform the role. I got to be myself and come into the room as myself and let that be what helped us get the material where it needed to be and to come from an authentic place.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so we really did grow together. And then we had the entire pandemic to all sit to ourselves.
Right.
And we all came back so tender, so precious, and so open to communicate even that much more, which I'm so grateful for, to come back into the room of collaboration and creativity with such comfort and ease. A different project we were working on, the producers sat a lot of us down to have a conversation during the pandemic about how we could be better in our industry and coming into rooms with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and consideration and awareness and consciousness. And I had this revelation for myself that we have to operate with conscious sensitivity. The conscious sensitivity that everyone brings their own existence and their own experience to every moment. And that something I do, even in this conversation, could bring up something in you, but it has nothing to do with me and everything to do with your own experience. And we have to operate in that way with everything that we do, of the awareness that like the world does not revolve around me. I am not the end all be all for anything. I have to be available to collaborate, to communicate, and to keep that conscious awareness of humanity beyond myself. You would think something so simple as human rights, allowing people to have autonomy over their own bodies and choices to do with their own lives. You would think that would be simple and just universally understood of like, yes, this makes sense to everyone. But the need for certain people to assert their power and to keep a chokehold on society for limited reasons and conditional ways of living and existing. And you're like, that never worked for us. And it really doesn't work for us now. So let's let these mentalities go. Let people live their lives. Let them be their own human beings. Let them have control over their bodies and their lives. We all have to be willing to change something about ourselves. It's something that's resonated with me so much recently in conversation of like, we are conditioned to be the same. We are conditioned to be one way and like stay that human so that I always know how to deal with you, as opposed to allowing ourselves and each other to change. We have to grow, we have to evolve. Somebody also said recently, like molecularly, you are not the same human you've always been. And growth and change does not happen without pain
Yeah.
or uncomfortable situation. You have to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be a space where you can control all of the
Elements,
you have to allow the like, okay, great. All the time I said, I am the only being I can control.
Right.
So all I can do in this world is exist in my truth and in my authenticity and carry that out into the world and hope that that makes a difference. That hope that that inspires someone or, you know, for so long, even long before I made bold fashion choices, people I felt were always double taking when they saw me on the street. And I used to be like, why, what do they see? What are they looking at? And I mean, I am tall, I'm 6'4", and so it's like I take up space,
But good space.
But good space.
Like a
And now
great energy.
I've taken the power of understanding that as a Black queer human being in this world, my existence is a political statement.
But a good one.
Without opening my mouth, I am making a political statement by leaving my home. So I might as well give you something to look at. Now, I
embrace it.
I am very intentional about when I get dressed, it's how do I feel? What's the vibe today? What do I want to say with what I'm wearing?
Right.
And now I see people double take and I'm like, you're welcome. Because it made you think differently than when you left home. You didn't know you were going to experience this being today. And yet you're now like, well, what is that? What's happening? I have always been a human that people are drawn to and I enjoy it. And it is a pressure at times, but at the same token, all I can do is do the fourfold way of living. Show up, be present, tell the truth, and not be attached to the outcome.
That's great.
I can't be attached to how you're going to respond to me.
Right.
I can't be attached to what it makes you feel or think. I just have to show up and be myself.
Yeah.
And everything else is circumstantial. Everything else is, you figure it out. And so it's wonderful to have stepped into this place of peace and of freedom, because that's all I'm aiming to do every day is to keep freeing myself, to keep stripping the layers of society and religion and things that have been placed on me or parts of narrative that have been added to me that I've taken on that I'm like, oh no, that was never me. That didn't serve me. Let me get rid of that. What resonates with me? And I always check back in with little J. Of one day I was doing Doubtfire, the musical, Mrs. Doubtfire, and I wear makeup in the show and I kept it on and I was on the train going home and I caught a glimpse of myself in the train doors. And I said, wow, little me would be so happy. That feeling of like, oh, little me is walking in this freedom and this joy and this like, this place I imagined, but now it's like here and tangible and I can do this. And it is wild to live in this and then also live in this in front of my parents and my family of like, well, this is the being that's always lived inside, but I was afraid of letting it all hang out at home in North Carolina and amongst such conservative.
Yeah, mindsets, yeah.
I was going along to get along. I did everything I could to just fit in and get by. And at 18, I said, great guys, I'm gone. I'm going to New York. Bye.
Good for you.
And it's just been a journey of freeing ever since to just keep cracking and being this onion and peel back the layers and just keep finding more. That's why the Tony Awards, my mother was my date for the Tonys. And it was because I had to give her flowers of showing her the impact she's made in the world through her child. She raised me to understand that my gifts that I was given from God were not about me, that I had to use them to do something that my journey and my experience could help somebody else. And so I wanted to show her, who was a part of some of the first integrated schools in North Carolina and like all that she's been through growing up, that like, look at your queer child standing on the stage, receiving this award, getting all of this love and these accolades and this elevation of society, this shift in the universe. Change is happening and you are a part of that.
Yeah.
And it was such a beautiful night. I'm like so glad I could share that with her. I didn't take my first dance class until I was 18 when I moved to New York. Wow. But again, music has always moved me. Dance, it just came. And so It's funny, a friend of mine, they saw something like it hot and said, did you know you could do this? Like this, I didn't know you could tap. I didn't know like, and it's like, no, yeah, I knew that this is just an opportunity to let it out, to show people what I am capable of and to not limit myself.
Right.
I love a challenge. I love an opportunity to meet a moment and not shy away, because then it just cracks me open and helps me learn like, okay, what am I capable of? That is the biggest thing I've learned as my career continues to grow. It's like, oh, I just have to show up and bring me to the table.
Right.
And that's what you desire? Great, wonderful. Happy to do that.
Yeah.
You'll tweak it if it's not what's right, and like whatever, we can collaborate and talk about the things, but you hired me for me. You wanted me to meet all in here. It's the everyday willingness to say, I'm meeting myself today. Yeah. The first thing I do every day out of my bed is I have a little altar in my apartment, and I go there and I pray and I meditate and I meet myself in the day. It doesn't matter if I'm hungover from the night. It doesn't matter how late I went to bed. That is the first place I go to just ground myself, to breathe, to check in, and to say, whatever the day brings to me. I came and met myself, grounded. All right, I can take on the world. That was our motto in Kinky Boots, literally the 6 steps. And the last step is you change the world when you change your mind. Yeah. And you have to be able to change your mind in order to say, oh, right, to be the change I see in the world, I've got to do the change first.
There's no one ringing this bell. You could have knocked me over